Books make you hope. Books make you dream. Books make you laugh. Books make you scream. This is the Books That Make You show, discussing books with authors and experts, unraveling the inner pages of all the books that help make us who we are. Hosted by Desiree Duffy.
Welcome one and all to Books That Make You. I'm your host, Desiree Duffy. And today we're talking about books that make you discover something deep and philosophical in pulpy graphic novels. How does that work? I mean, graphic novels and comics and pulp fiction. We often think of these types of books as having rather flimsy themes. They don't typically cut that deep into big issues. Or do they? Sometimes complex themes can be covered within the pages of something that seems written just for entertainment value. Yeah. Now, and isn't that really the best kind of stuff to read? Something that has layers to it, something to unwrap and see on different levels. Think of some of the most compelling stories in our history. Chances are they have a moral or an underlying message to them, and that's what makes them just oh so juicy and dynamic. Our guest today, Russell Nohelty, well, he knows a thing or two about crafting stories that get quite deep and even philosophical. Russell is a USA Today Bestselling author and publisher at Wannabe Press. He's written comic books like Katrina Hates the Dead, Ichabod Jones, Monster Hunter, and Pixie Dust, along with more than a dozen novels. He also edits the Cthulhu is Hard to Spell anthology series. And he also helps other creatives with the Complete Creative, an online resource. And that includes courses and a podcast, a blog. And he also has 2 nonfiction books, How to Build a Creative Business and How to Become a Successful Author. Russell, hi, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
This is going to be fun because you're one of those humans who has such a diverse array of just things going on. You're this businessman, an entrepreneur. You're always thinking of the future. You're a writer. You write fiction and nonfiction. And the core, like I feel that Russell's through line through everything is that you have some type of deeper meaning. Even in some of the pulpier things that you write, why is it, do you feel, that it's important to infuse some kind of deeper philosophical meaning into your writing?
Because what's the point otherwise? I mean, like, for me, I read books to expand my mind. I don't read them to shut off my mind. So I want to tackle themes that are universal and messages that will resonate for a long time. I'm interested in having a career that outlives me. So in order to do that, I feel like the only things that really endure are the ones that deal with those universal messages and themes that people can grab onto more than just an entertaining message. But that being said, I really hate being preached at and having things hammered into me. So I always try to balance entertaining and thought-provoking together. And if I've done it right, you'll have sort of matrixed or incepted a message into you without you ever knowing it. I like to think that a lot of people that read my work do not share my philosophical, religious, or other beliefs. But if those people can just have a really entertaining ride. But if you want to think more deeply about things like grief and loss and redemption and whether what it means to be human, obsession, good versus evil, fate, destiny, then that is there if you want to dig deeper.
I love it. So really, it's all about mind control, right?
I think the best fiction is really getting people to think about something in a way that they have never thought about it before. I'm a big believer in the fact that when you are ready, the message appears. It's probably something you've read 100 times before. But if someone can talk about it and twist it in just the right way, it'll click. And I remember things like that clicking for me, and just that joy in my face when I was like, oh my God, why did I never hear it put that way before? And I'm hoping that my work can do that for somebody else. But again, it is entertainment first and then a message second.
I agree. And we've all had that experience, especially when you think back to fairy tales and maybe some of the stories that we were told as children, or even in some cases, the cartoons or the movies that we saw as children. Going back as an adult, you start seeing things that were always there, but you just never realized it before.
Absolutely. And I mean, fairy tales are one of my favorites, and mythology is a second. So those are two of my deep passions, are mythology and fairy tales. And they're full of tales that are entertaining, but also deliver a message at the end. And that's sort of, as I've grown as a writer, that's become more and more important to me with every project that I put out.
And you prattled off so many wonderful themes within your writing. Let's unpack some of that a little bit. So what are some of the themes that you really feel are resonating the most with your readers? And what are some of the ones that you really feel are the most important?
So the one that I hear about all of the time is taking destiny into your own hands. So the characters in my Godsverse universe, my new Obsidian Spindle books, my Ichabod Jones Monster Hunter, they're all characters who are kind of fighting against the destiny that the gods or society has put to them. So Ichabod is a mental patient who's interred in an asylum and becomes a monster hunter during the apocalypse. And that's all about redemption, but also like, can you fight against the fate that society, who've deemed you a objectively evil person by putting you behind bars, can you have a redemption and become a hero, even though society is fighting against that, basically. Katrina, the Godsverse universe, all four of the main characters who are really in that book right now are people who've had their destiny handed to them by actual gods. And they are railing against that and making their own path through the universe. And I think that's a message that always resonates, especially now, but that you can have a hand in the life that you lead, especially when a lot of choices are taken away from you. Katrina, for instance, there's 3-book collection called In Death Followed Behind Her, which follows sort of the titular character, Katrina of the universe, sort of the catalyst character. And she's been in the apocalypse for 2 years. She had no choice in the matter. And she decides with her friend to set out to confront the devil and have him end the apocalypse. So they basically bent until they were about to break and decided they would not break and they would take their destiny into their own hands. Another book in that series, which will be out in May, is called And Hell Followed Behind Her, and it follows the first book follows a Pixie monster hunter who is betrayed and murdered by the king that she used to work for. She travels through hell, makes a deal with the devil at the time, Balaska, and comes back to from hell to Earth to seek revenge on the king that killed her. Again, someone who's not happy with the way that her destiny has unfolded and takes matters into her own hands. And I think if you look through all of the work that I've had, that is the theme that I try to talk about the most, and also the theme that I try to live the most as well.
Yeah, I really dig that, because I mean, not everybody has been given a destiny by a god, but sometimes that's what it feels like in our everyday mundane life. Maybe we were supposed to automatically take on the family business. there go, our destiny is set for us. Or maybe we were told we needed to go to school and become a lawyer, or we needed to get married by a certain time and start having kids. There's all sorts of pressure that the world puts on us, whether intentionally or just because that's the way, quote unquote, society is. So what I love is you take that and amplify it. And let's face it, if somebody like Katrina has the moxie to go take on the devil himself to fix her situation and by, the situation of the world, then it kind of feels empowering, right? What you're really doing is giving people a sense of hope and empowerment to take on their own situations.
Yeah, and that is something else. A secondary thing that I like to talk about is hope and hopelessness. Mm-hmm. So I would not call my books while there is quite a bit of humor, I would not call them feel-good stories throughout. Lots of bad things happen to these characters. Lots of horrible things happen to these characters throughout. And sometimes the characters themselves are kind of horrible. But when all the chips are down, they still have that inkling of hope and that sliver of hope that things can get better. And while they don't always succeed, they always get what they need, even if they don't get what they want. And sometimes, you just want to read something that the main characters like going to go through a lot of stuff, but they're going to make it out the other side and they're going to be changed for the better from the experience. And while I do have a couple of books which are kind of nebulous at that end, where the characters either don't get what they want or they end up in a worse place, for the most part, with my work, the characters grow and change through all of their conflict and struggle, and they end up better for it on the other side. And I mean, we live in a chaotic world, and having that little sliver of hope be spoon-fed to you or force-fed to you in a book is powerful. That's one of the things that I love about books is you can sort of, if you feel like you have no control over your own life, you can escape into Katrina's world or Octa's world or any of the other worlds. And like you could watch somebody who just for a moment takes the world by the haunches and won't say no.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And let's break down, if you could, because we've got Katrina, she kicks butt. You've got all of these different characters in God's verse, and you've got novels and graphic novels. So for the person who's trying to kind of unpack your franchises, how does that work? And what should they read first? How do they start?
Well, if you like comics, I recommend starting with Katrina Hates the Dead. It's sort of the linchpin book of the whole universe. And then that book was novelized into a book called And Demons Followed Behind Her, which is the only single book that I have out available. And it's 99 cents on all platforms because that is sort of the catalyst book that sort of epitomizes what you'll get in a God's Verse book. It's a combination of fantasy and horror and mythology and thriller, and I like to call them fantasy thrillers. So they're very fast paced, they're very action heavy, they're very much like that sort of like lose yourself in the pace, and then you're reading chapter 1 and then you're reading chapter 20, and you don't remember like how you got there because you were just enjoying it so much.
Yeah.
So I would say if you're a comics fan, read Katrina Hates the Dead or the novelization And Demons Followed Behind Her. And then there are 11 more stories and 4 collections in the God's Verse universe, which are available on all platforms.
Now you have this theme of Katrina's fighting dead things and she's fighting demons. You have this apocalyptic backdrop. Let's face it, right now, our world with viruses that are spreading and people being told they need to self-quarantine, people working from home, not being able to congregate. And from one minute to the next, it seems like things are changing on a really fast basis. It's like we are reading one of your books, Russell, because it's just going so fast. Now, how do you feel that the themes in your writing are being mirrored today? Is that some kind of perhaps a reality check on our own mortality?
I think, well, I will say that only one of the books deals with the apocalypse. The rest of the books are set across 13,000 years, and none of the other ones are. There's only been one apocalypse in that time frame, at least on this earth. It is about mythology, Norse, Greek, Judeo-Christian mythology. But as far as how it relates, I think that a lot of people feel like their choice and their fate has been stripped from them, that they are being told to self-quarantine, that they're being told that they can't do the things they want or be the person that they want. I know for myself, I'm a huge fan of conventions. I do them all over the country, and basically a third to half of my income has been stripped from me through no fault of my own because of this virus. So I think we're sort of unmoored from time and space, and we don't feel like we have control of our destiny or any hope left. And I think that these books, my books, can give a little bit of both of them back. Again, even if you personally don't feel like you have control, or maybe you don't have control right now, it is nice to be lost in a world that you can find that control again, that you can, at least for a moment, be moored and stuck in the ground. And especially the main characters of the Gods verse, like they are very sure of themselves and the direction. They're stubborn for sure, but they are also proactive. And they are moving in a specific direction, and it's nice to have something where even when bad things happen, like these characters are looking at the opportunity, they're looking at the next thing. Even when they fail, they're like, okay, that didn't work. What's next? And they're very like situationally optimistic or opportunistic. So they are surveying the field, seeing what they have to work with, and then working with that. And even at their worst, they are still fighting and railing against the destiny that people or gods have taken from them. And there's a lot of comfort in that. At least for me, there's a ton of comfort in reading a book where somebody just unabashedly goes after the thing that they want, especially in a world where you're stuck in your house, unable to do anything.
Oh, exactly. It's one of the most magnificent forms of escapism. I mean, at this point in time, and let's face it, if we are limiting our being able to go out into the world and doing things with friends and going to conventions and things, now is the time to expand our horizons mentally, more so through books than maybe before. So I think it's really great that people can dive into your books and they get that for a little bit. They get to see the world through somebody else's eyes who is doing everything in their power to kick some butt, and they get to escape for a little bit. That's a good thing, right?
Yeah, so I write a lot of different series and a lot of different things, and there's something about writing in the God's verse that is freeing in a way. I never write as fast or as many words as I do, as quickly at least, as I do in the God's verse. Like I can write, usually I'm writing about 700 to 800 words an hour. With the God's verse, it can be over 2,000 because like they're just so quick and they're so fun to write. And there's this liberation of being able to not have to worry about the consequences of actions that some of these characters take. They just are absolute steamrollers. And there's something fun about writing it. There's something fun about reading it. And yeah, there's something about watching people take control of something that feels like they should have no control over, that is very gratifying. I know in my own career doing other things, just the fact that I'm doing them, I often get comments that's like, wow, you're like, this is so great that you're putting this thing together or this other thing together. And it's like, just even looking at it on the outside feels like sort of wish fulfillment or fantasy that like I could, with just a little effort, I could be the one that's putting all of this stuff together. And I think that like second degree or third degree like endorphin rush or dopamine hit is vastly underappreciated.
Mm-hmm. And it sounds too, knowing you the way I do, Russell, you are definitely the type of person who goes out, gets things done. And it almost sounds like, and I'm gonna go there. I want to talk about your online convention that you're having, but first I'm gonna circle back to you just a little bit more, because it seems that when you're doing that, in a way you might be providing some kind of therapy for yourself, or you're writing out your own destiny to a certain degree. So let's talk about your writing process a little bit, because I'm fascinated by that, because it seems that you, being somebody who writes so fast and prolifically, are you going by the seat of your pants? Are you a pantser, so to speak?
Absolutely not. I
outline
plot
everything.
In fact, I tried to pants something last year, and I got, for literally 3 months, I wrote like 1,000 words total. So I plot everything out now. I am a super plotter, but I don't plot very detailed. What I'll do is I'll write out sort of a beat sheet of every 1,000 words throughout the course of the story, and then I'll highlight roughly every 10,000 words where there's a major change. And the major changes I have to hit, because the story won't make sense. Like, it won't be paced right if I don't hit the major plot points. But then I give myself some latitude between those major plot points to change things, or to get there in a different way, or to meander a little bit. But I always know where I'm going next, and I always know where the story is going, partially because when I'm writing in some series, 4 books in, I'm 6 books into the God's Verse now, I need to make sure I'm not breaking the universe or doing anything that I've done before. So I end up, I think that when you're writing a series, it is detrimental to not plot, especially a long series or a big universe, because you're just asking for yourself to break the universe. You're just asking to write something or say something that will destroy just everything and make it all collapse around you. So I plot a beat sheet out every 1,000 words roughly, which, depending on the story, is either a chapter every 1,000 words or a chapter every 2,000 words. And then the God's Verse, for instance, I know has 3 major turns in every chapter. The chapters are roughly 2,000 words, and every about 800 to 900 words, there's a scene break, and there's a major change that happens there, or there's like a scene inside of it. So I write every day from 9 to 2, 9 to 3, depending on if I get enough words written. I try to write, when I'm in writing mode, I try to write 5,000 words a day, and then I edit it. And then I put it aside and I send it to my editor, and she takes about a month to get back with notes. And so I go into sort of promotion mode. So right now I'm in promotion mode. I'm launching a book that will have finished by the time this airs on Kickstarter, but I'm doing like 5 or 10 interviews a week for other podcasts to just get the name recognition out there. And then I'll go back into my hole, and I'll write another book, and then I'll pop out again and do promotion and launch things. And so I try to think of it as seasons. My career as seasons, kind of like a designer. So a designer basically has 4 seasons, right? It all kind of culminates in the runway show. So that is what I consider like the launch of my season. So I work backwards, and I do the promotion and the building and the writing and the development and all of that stuff sort of corkscrews back to, and then we finish with these big like releases, and then I go back down into my hole, and then I sort of slowly pop back up. And it sort of creates this nice sort of rhythm to my career that I haven't had until recently, but it sort of made me more confident and more comfortable with the kind of creative that I am and the kind of work that I do. So, but it always starts with an outline.
Good to know. Good to know. One of the cool things that you do as well is you've discovered your own craft, your own style, your own storytelling. You've learned how to market yourself, do your own promotion in a myriad of ways, from Kickstarter to social media, etc. And then you've taken all of that knowledge too, and you're sharing it. You want to talk a little bit about how you help other creatives in the community?
Sure. So about 3 years ago, roughly 3 years ago, I spun off the educational arm of Wannabe Press into a site called The Complete Creative. So The Complete Creative came from writers and other creatives asking me how I built my business and how I did all of these pieces, how I kind of put it together and then sustained it. And instead of just sort of giving some sort of trite answer, I wanted to have like a resource for them. So what I did was I created a website that has a bunch of epic blog posts, free courses, paid courses, and hundreds of just articles on my process of building a creative career, broken down into mindset, creation, and then sales. And so basically every time I finish something really that I think I've mastered, or I think that will be important to creators in the future, I try to put it on that site somewhere, either as a course, as an epic blog post, or as a free course, or as some sort of resource that I can reference later and that other people can find later. But it all came from people asking me the question, like, what do you do and how do you do it? So The Complete Creative also just launched their own podcast called The Complete Creative. It kind of piggybacks off an old show I had called The Business of Art. So there's almost 200 episodes in the archives now. We interview creators about how they built their creative career. In fact, Desiree was on the old Business of Art show. And so it's all about how to build and sustain your creative career, and comes out weekly. And I also speak around the country, and I did speak around the country, and I've just been, since shows have been canceling, I've just started doing a bunch of virtual conventions, virtual conferences. The first one we did was called WannaCon, which was for like Wannabe Press fans, but I filled it with creators, writers, and we did 3 days, 12 hours of this massive live stream on Twitch and YouTube and Facebook, celebrating creativity. And I interviewed creators about how they built their careers and just all sorts of amazing stuff. And we've gone from that now to my next one that I'm planning is a virtual writers conference called the Online Writers Conference with Nicholas Nelson. And I've got some other ones in the future that I'm planning, but I've really been embracing sort of live stream video and what it can do to connect you with an audience.
And that's wonderful, because right now we're not quite sure when we can even start getting together in any significant numbers. So you're trailblazing by doing these online conferences, and also just you're a great resource. You're a great way for the creative community to get together and talk and continue on their journey of being creatives.
Yeah, I hope so. So I'm kind of selfish in the fact that I just want people to make better and more stuff. And I know that in order to make better and more stuff, there's a lot of knowledge out there that's either been hidden or scattered around the internet in all sorts of places. And so I've been trying to gather it all and hoard it all so that people can make and sell better stuff, and then I can know about that stuff, and then I can buy that stuff. So That's how it all started. Really, I mean, it all started from like me just wanting to buy more comics and books, and like having people make better and more stuff was like the way for me to do that. And it could have kind of ballooned from there. But it is my hope that at the end of my career, if I've done nothing else, I have left a relatively unbroken string of what it meant to lead a creative life.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you definitely are succeeding there. So why don't you tell people where they can find out more about you online, find your books, social media, and give us the website again for your online conference?
Sure. So it is, if you want to find info on me, it's just russellnohelty.com. That's where all of my books are, and you can see my bio and where you can get to all of the other resources. My podcast, The Complete Creative, is on any platform. And the website is thecompletecreative.com. And the virtual conference is not quite set up, but it is at onlinewritersconference.com, and that is set to take place live on April 18th and 19th from 10 to 4 p.m. Pacific time. That would be 1 to 8 p.m., 1 to 7 p.m. Eastern time. And it will be full of live interviews, including one with Desiree and a bunch of awesome people. And I'm really excited for it. I can't wait to get out again and get into the world. I've been kind of dying in this as an extrovert, stuck inside the whole time. And I'm glad I'm doing a lot of interviews now, because I don't know what would happen if I was writing a book now. But I'm very excited. The great thing about live is that you can ask questions immediately to the people who are on the stream. And of course, I can ask questions anytime I want. But the real thing is like fans and attendees and people can just have immediate access to these people and ask questions. And like, there's nothing like somebody saying something, you asking a question, and then it is immediately answered. And I mean, I feel like me and you get that quite a bit more often, because when I really want to talk to somebody, I just message them or email them, and then I have them on my show, and then I can ask all sorts of questions whenever I want to. But there's that beauty of live streaming is that you can interrupt the pattern and sort of influence where the conversation is going to go. So I hope onlinewritersconference.com. I know it's a very boring name, but we wanted the SEO of like, hey, if you want an online writers conference, hopefully that's the one that comes up first, because it's literally in the name.
There you go. That's the way to do it. Likewise, we're doing something similar. Ours is an online book fest, and we're labookfest.com. LosAngelesBookFest.com. It's as easy as that. So thank you, Russell. I look forward to your online book conference. I will be there on April 18th and 19th. And thank you for joining me on the show today. You are just like this huge wealth of knowledge and this bundle of creative energy. I love it. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. And thank you, everyone, for listening today. Again, my name is Desiree Duffy, your host for Books That Make You. And you can find out more about us. It's booksthatmakeyou.com. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Sign up for our newsletter. We're always giving away lots of bookish goodies. And don't forget, on May 9th, we're doing the LA Book Fest. And that is labookfest.com. You can go there right now and sign up. We'll give you more information as we get closer. And I have a feeling maybe, just maybe, we'll have Russell invited to our online book fest too. And we'll share a little bit back and forth that way. Until next time, all of my bookish buddies, please do me one favor and enjoy every single book that makes you exactly who you are.
The executive producer for Books That Make You is Desiree Duffy. Produced and sound mastered by Phil Giangrande. Engineering by Dave Nabox. Social media and promotion by Bree Sweeter. For more, visit booksthatmakeyou.com.